the lands west of the Mississippi River, more specifically Kansas and Nebraska, were at the center of a heated debate. This wasn't just about territory, however. It was about the future of slavery in the United States. Known as Bleeding Kansas, this era marked one of the most significant precursors to the Civil War, as both pro-slavery advocates and free soil abolitionists clashed violently over the fate of these territories. 1854 saw the passing of the Kansas-Nebraska Act, championed by Senator Stephen Douglas. The act split the land into the Kansas Territory and Nebraska Territory, opening both regions to popular sovereignty, meaning that the settlers themselves would vote to decide whether slavery should be allowed or not. While Nebraska was assumed to become a free state, Kansas was a completely different story. Being located directly west of Missouri, a slave state, Kansas became the battleground for those looking to extend or restrict slavery's reach. Political tensions flared. Abolitionists, often backed by groups like the New England Emigrant Aid Company, sent settlers into Kansas to vote against slavery. On the other side, pro-slavery forces from neighboring Missouri, known as Border Ruffians, crossed into Kansas, hoping to intimidate and sway the vote in their favor. With Kansas becoming the site of brutal clashes, it was clear the Missouri Compromise, which had previously outlawed slavery north of the 3630 line, was now under threat. In March of 1855, the first major event occurred: the Kansas territorial election. Thousands of pro-slavery Missourians, armed and ready to intimidate, illegally crossed the border in order to vote, leading to a fraudulent pro-slavery government. Despite this, free soilers and abolitionists formed their own government. And in doing so, Kansas ended up with two opposing administrations, setting the stage for violent conflict. The violence escalated very quickly. In December of 1855, the Wakarusa War began when pro-slavery forces laid siege to the town of Lawrence, a free state stronghold. While no one was killed during this siege, the pattern of violence continued. The following year, Sheriff Samuel Jones, a pro-slavery official, was shot but survived, prompting him to gather 750 men to raid and ransack abolitionist homes. Kansas was indeed bleeding. Even in Washington, D.C., the violence of Kansas spilled over into the halls of Congress. Charles Sumner, a staunch anti-slavery senator, was brutally beaten by Preston Brooks after Sumner delivered a scathing speech condemning all of the pro-slavery forces. This act highlighted how deeply divided the nation had become over the humongous issue of slavery. In retaliation for the pro-slavery violence, an abolitionist by the name of John Brown and his followers attacked and killed 5 pro-slavery settlers in what became known as the Potawatomi Massacre. This event ignited even more bloodshed, including the Battle of Blackjack, and cemented Brown's role as a controversial figure in the fight against slavery. By 1857, with James Buchanan now president, Kansas became his top priority. The Lecompton Constitution was proposed, allowing for Kansas to either accept slavery or permit no new slaves but still enslave the existing population for the rest of their lives. Despite Buchanan's efforts to push this constitution through, it was eventually rejected. Yet the violence and political struggle remained. In 1858, the violence continued with the Marais des Cygnes massacre, where 5 Free State men were brutally executed. It wasn't until 1861, as the nation teetered on the edge of civil war, that Kansas finally entered the Union as a free state under the Wyandotte Constitution. Bleeding Kansas was more than just a territorial dispute. It fractured political parties as the Democratic Party split and the Republican Party rose in opposition to the Kansas-Nebraska Act. It also shaped the future presidency of Abraham Lincoln, who emerged as a powerful voice against slavery. The bloodshed in Kansas was a precursor to the wider conflict that would engulf the nation in the Civil War. The fight over Kansas foreshadowed the brutal and deadly war to come, a war that would ultimately decide the fate of slavery in America.
Bleeding Kansas was an early stage in the American civil rights struggle, and Kansas served as a battleground for greater human rights. Over time, it became a part of a larger American narrative about the struggles against oppression, motivating following social justice movements by illustrating the significance of standing up to injustice, even in the face of violence. It revealed deep moral and political conflicts within the United States, emphasized the importance of confronting slavery, and left a symbolic mark on American history as the country's first true battlefield over human rights and the rights of the people of the nation. Kansas eventually joined the Union as a free state in 1861, shortly after the Civil War began. But that wasn't it. This result was a symbolic success for the anti-slavery campaign. It established a precedent for free state status throughout the West. It also supported the notion that territories once declared states could and can and will withstand pressures from neighboring states or national trends. When we are to look back at the events that led to Bleeding Kansas, we can clearly see it was just more than a local conflict. It was a powerful preview of the storm that would soon consume the entire United States. The violent struggle showed how deep the divisions over slavery ran, challenging the idea that compromises alone could hold the Union together. It also marked the rise of a new generation of abolitionists and reshaped American politics, fueling the momentum that did eventually lead to the Civil War. Today, its legacy endures as a testament to the fight for freedom and justice. This event in Kansas alone proved that sometimes real change comes only after a great struggle. But the scars left behind Bleeding Kansas serve as a reminder of the high cost of unresolved conflict.